is nail polish, Truth Seeker says, does nail polish invalidate the wudu? Nail polish does not invalidate the wudu, people. You can, just in case some of you want on your weekends, right? So, right, the Qari Saab turns up with his nail polish on. Right, so size matters, people, when it comes to coffee. But yeah, so nail polish does not invalidate wudu. You can do wudu on top of the, just wash over, it's fine. And this is based on a number of things. Amongst them is that the Sharia simply asks you to deal with the apparent. So even in wudu, you just wash the apparent. So hence you're not required to wash. I mean, you can rinse out your mouth, but you're not required to rinse out your mouth. You're not required to wash inside the nose. I mean, you can do this, but it's not a requirement. You're not required to wash inside the eyes, for example, even though some of the Salaf used to wash inside their eyes. But you're not required to wash inside the ear because the batin is not a requirement. Hence, even when a person is washing his feet, let's say, you're not required to wash between the toes. It's not a requirement. I mean, some scholars may say it is, but generally it isn't. So that's because you're only required to deal with the apparent. So whatever the apparent is. So in that case, you're not washing the actual tips. You're washing the nail on top, and then the nail happens to have polish on it. You're washing it however it is. It makes no difference. There are also fatwa of the Salaf, including the legend Imam Malik, who speaks of things like the ring. And if you're wearing a ring, and he says that in certain fatwa that you're not required to remove it. Now, where it gets interesting is the questioner asks that what if it's dayiq? What if it's really tight and it does not allow water to pass underneath? So Imam Malik says, so what? So this is over something which is not a necessity. It's not a requirement to wear a ring, and you could take it off, And so the point is, if you're not required to remove it for wudu, and that's a ring and it's just jewelry, then why would you be required to remove nail polish? And another important factor is that, the Salaf weren't this kind of OCD about stuff. This is very much a later post-Islamic occurrence. This whole obsession with, this obsession with detail, where everything becomes fanatically ritualistic. This, I don't think that's a good thing in my, understanding. I don't like that. But so people, they become obsessed with detail. What about this? What about that? What's this? Oh my God, have I missed a spot here? Have I? And people might say, yes, well, there's a hadith where the Prophet ﷺ says, "Wailul lil aqab." Okay, if that hadith be true, let's just go with it for now. This hadith where a person told a person to wash his feet. Now, you see, but that's the apparent thing. You see, now, wait there. I don't know what's up with my throat today. So, right now, you see, in the Arab climate, where there was sand, dust, things like this, it is apparent when a person has not washed a whole portion that is still, let's say, of his limb, like his hand or his arm or his feet, that are still covered in dust. It wasn't, some people try to say, oh, he missed a tiny spot or on his feet. And the Prophet, because the hadith says the Prophet saw it from far, and he said, "Oh, wailun lil aqabi minan nar." Right? That, oh, that damn those, like, aqab is the heel of the foot. So, oh, that basically those such heels are damned to the hellfire. That's what it kind of means. Now, you see, that's absurd to suggest that the Prophet noticed a tiny spot of, because you can't tell these things. These things are not, like, if a person is washing his hand over there, you wouldn't know that, oh my god, he missed a tiny part over here. You wouldn't know this. The only way you'd know this for the feet is the person did not really wash his feet and they were covered in dust still. So as he's just rinsed his, rinsed his face and arms and wiped, and maybe just kind of on one foot chucked some water, but the other foot is clearly dusty. And the Prophet said that to him. That's how that was. It wasn't about a tiny speck or a dot. Yeah, and then the Malikiya have issued fatwa, the fatwa of Ibn Dinar, I believe, on where a woman, for example, has been cooking and there's a small amount, like string like, let's say, small amount of dough that she's been kind of preparing, and that's still stuck on her hand or arm or something, and she doesn't notice. She washes it off, and but it's still, let's say there's a small amount still there, and then she does wudu over it later to realize that there was a small amount of dough. Now she's not required to repeat that, they say. I mean, he says, and that's part of the Maliki madhab. So the point is to beware of this tanattu, this kind of like deep fanatic obsession with the deen.